Hello friends, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, back with more foiled goodness. Still a little obsessed with these foil sheets, which is funny because I've had Deco foil for years. I've done videos in the past using it, etc. But I'm on this fall mood kick with these foils. These ones came in Simon's November card kit. I will have links at the end of this video to the two previous videos I've done so far using the foil sheets and elements from the kit. This time I'm using the foil sheets and no heat. You don't need a MIG machine, a laminator, anything like that. I'm just using some adhesive sheets. These are the Simon Says Stamp Terrific adhesive sheets. You could also use score tape would work as well. Any sort of adhesive like this. So I just peel the backing off the adhesive sheet and I am pressing cardstock into it. I'm just using Neenah Desert Storm cardstock. It doesn't really matter what cardstock you use. I just have lots of scraps of this because I'm always cutting this cardstock down for all the projects because you guys see me use this cardstock a million times. So I'm just peeling the backing off, pressing the cardstock into the adhesive, and then trimming it out from the sheet. And I just kind of keep doing this, and I actually do more off camera because I couldn't stop. So once I've got several of these pieces of cardstock coated with the adhesive, I'm going to peel off the backing to expose the adhesive and then press the Deco foil into it. Now, honestly, I don't think it doesn't have to be Deco foil. It could be any of the foil products, even things like Glimmer Hot Foil. If you happen to have like lots of that, whatever works, because it's just adhesive. You know, there's no special need, you know, because like Deco foil works with toner, Glimmer Hot Foil works with the hot foil plates, you know, like certain foils for certain things. But with this, it doesn't matter. You just stick it down. So I'm also not concerned with getting it perfectly smooth. For the most part, most of them actually did adhere quite smoothly, but with a couple of them, I got, you know, there was an air bubble here or it would wrinkle up. Doesn't matter. And it literally isn't going to matter because I'm going to die cut all of this. And the pressure from the die cut machine will kind of take care of any little bubbles as well as like any of the wrinkling. You're not going to see it because the dies I'm using all have like etching and piercing detail to them as well. So I just kept grabbing different colors of this Deco foil, and I will link to various ones that I used because there's bronze and copper and gold and champagne and just beautiful fall colors. So once I have all of these pieces of cardstock and adhesive, like right here, that's where I got wrinkles, but meh. Anyway. Once I've got them all coated with that foil, now it's time to die cut. So I went through my stash and pulled out some of my favorite leaf wafer dies. All of these are from Simon. I, of course, used the etched oak leaves, which I've done several videos on already. I used the layered rose leaves. There's the tender leaves. And then I also I showed at the beginning there the large stitched maple leaf and the large stitched oak leaf wafer die. Those came out years ago. Everything's still available. I'll have links to all of it. But yeah, once I started, I couldn't stop. So I taped these into place with just my very low tack tape. And then, like I said off camera, I did more because I couldn't stop. Like, look at them. Look at them. If you're someone like, you know, does like a decorated table for Thanksgiving, those sorts of things, I was like, oh, that would look gorgeous. You could just like sprinkle these around it, like these foiled leaves. Like, look at them. They're so gorgeous. So I did a bunch. And then those big ones too. I was like, oh man, I could have so much fun with this. Like, yeah. So I have a massive pile of foiled leaves. And when I ran those through my die cut machine, I did run them back and forth a couple times just to get clean cuts because you're cutting through the foil, which is very thin, the adhesive and the cardstock. So I would just like roll it back and forth through my die cut machine and everything cut like a dream. It was great. So then for my backgrounds, I am using the bold leaves background stamp from Simon. I thought about using the same one as I used in my previous video, the drops one. That would work too. But this one was sitting here and I was like, ooh, this would be really nice. So I'm using Simon's dark chocolate cardstock, and then I'm using VersaFine Clair Fallen Leaves ink, apt. And inking up the stamp, I have it face up on my work surface, inking it up with that Fallen Leaves ink, and then put my cardstock panel on there, and then a bit of just scratch paper to keep from getting that ink all over my hands. Again, I don't mind getting ink on my hands. It doesn't like phase me, but if I can prevent it, because more often than not, it'll get on my hands and then I'll smear it on like white cardstock, you know? So I just kept repeating that process till I had 4 backgrounds stamped with that bold leaves background. And then of course I'm going to add splatter. So I'm going to use my Gonzai Tomby Starry Nights palette again. And this time, instead of using just the regular gold that I always use, I use this more like the reddish gold color, and I'm going to use one of the lighter gold. So I'd already put water in here, swirled it around really well with my little fan brush, and then I am going to liberally splatter these backgrounds with the gold paint. And I did the 4 backgrounds, and I just used them in my splat box, so I'm not getting splatter absolutely everywhere. So put 2 in at a time, splatter, do the other 2, splatter. I quickly swirled my brush in my cup of water, and then I just used, which is off screen, but lower down in that little palette, one of the lighter gold colors, because why not? Why not add extra splatter? So once I've splattered these backgrounds, I'll just set them aside to dry, which doesn't take very long. This stuff dries quite quickly, which is pretty nice. So splattered those backgrounds with the lighter gold, move those off to the side so that I could splatter the remaining 2 backgrounds. So I've got them stamped with that dark brown. I purposely wanted like the dark brown background to make these foiled leaves just pop against it because they're beautiful. And then I cleaned off that background stamp, and I am going to stamp the insides of my card bases, and all my card bases are just going to be top folding A2 white note cards. So I've got my background stamp, I've cleaned it off, and I am inking up the background stamp with Simon's Latte Positively Saturated ink, just a nice light brown. And I used some Post-it tape to mask off where the score line was so it doesn't stamp past that. And then same thing, inked up the stamp, press the inside of the card into the stamp, use a scratched paper so I don't get ink smeared all over the place. Repeated that till I had all 4 insides stamped. And then I put those card bases into my MISTI, and I'm going to stamp a sentiment from the extra Talkative set, another one that I've been showing in lots of videos because I'm kind of obsessed with it. So I lined up the sentiment, and that I'm going to ink up with that same Fallen Leaves ink. And again, repeat till I have the insides of all of these cards stamped. So once I've got the insides stamped, I'm going to start completing the card fronts. And my original goal was to just make some flat shakers, but when I was doing all the foiling on all of that cardstock and did the larger ones, I was like, oh, I can do a couple flat shakers, I can do a couple of regular cards. In the end, honestly, I probably could have done at least 4 shakers, if not 6, with the amount I had, but I'll get to that in a second. So I'm just using packaging that cardstock came in for my like cellophane for the shaker. I will also link to a pack of clear bags that work. It's the same sort of packaging because I know some people have mentioned to me what can they use. They don't have like, you know, a pile of packaging like I do because I've been saving mine for years, really. And then that's why I make so many flat shaker cards, because I have tons of it. So anything will work like that. So I just like, one, reusing the packaging because it gives it another use. And also because it's thin, it makes it easy to create these. So I flipped the background over onto the packaging, and all the backgrounds I trimmed down, they're now like 3 3/4 by 5 inches. I wanted them smaller than my A2 card fronts. So I'm using Simon's 1/4 inch Terrific tape, applying that around the edge and then folding up the packaging after I've exposed the adhesive, sealing in all 3 sides. And then the 4th side, I apply the adhesive, but I don't seal it up because I got to put my little shaker elements in here. So I'm going to put the leaves in there. And like I said, I could have done multiple cards because I put so many in these. The leaves don't really shake. Like if you really want the leaves to move, I would do like 3, maybe 3 or 4 per shaker. I put in like 12 or however many are sitting there. Who cares? But yeah, if you really want the leaves to move, only put a few and you'll be fine. But I wanted to just fill these. And then I also added some gold confetti. So the confetti really does move around and shake just fine. And the leaves just kind of stay in place, which I'm fine with, because it's just like this pile of foiled leaves in the shaker. And they're so pretty that I just don't care, you know? So just again, though, hindsight. So if you wanted to make a whole bunch, this amount of leaves, literally, you could make tons of shakers with them. So I did that with the first panel. I repeated the process with the second panel. So I've got 2 flat shakers here. And then my sentiment is the bold thanks wafer die, that again, I've used that in a million videos as well. So for the flat shakers, I ran a couple pieces of white cardstock. I put them, my brain stopped. I used the adhesive sheet on the back of the cardstock, die cut it with the wafer die, and then die cut additional pieces with the wafer die and stack them together. So I've got 3 layers of cardstock stacked there, and the bottom layer is covered in adhesive from that adhesive sheet. So that's what I'm peeling it off of now. I just stacked them all together on there. So this was an easy way to adhere this to that packaging. I've shown in other videos, I'll use things like glossy accents and whatnot. That works too. But this just makes it a little bit faster and more convenient to adhere it. And then I use my little T-square ruler to get it straight. And then for the plain panels, like non-shaker panels, I'm adhering these big foiled leaves. And again, wait, I'll show at the end. I'll tilt them in the light, but like they're just so reflective and gorgeous. And like these ones that I use, like I think the copper Deco foil, and it's like a copper penny. I love it. So to adhere those sentiments, I could have done the same thing, like use the terrific sheets on the back, but I didn't think of that. I did these 2 sentiments first, and then I was like, oh, if I put adhesive on the back before I die cut it, again, hindsight. So those I just adhered with craft tacky glue. And then with these ones, I added a few more of those gold sequins, just adhered those into place with the craft tacky glue. And then the flat shakers, I'm adhering to the card bases with some 1-inch score tape, because that seals up all those folded over edges so nothing comes apart. And it also makes sure like these cards aren't going anywhere. Like they are sealed up, glued down for good. So use that for the flat shakers. And then the other panels, I coated the back with Simon's Big Mama foam tape. So they've got a little bit of dimension, but not a ton of bulk. And I'm going to pop those into place on those card bases. And once those are adhered, these cards are complete. So, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I will link to all the supplies I used, as well as the November kit, because that is where I had all these little foil sheets from. But I will link to everything that's available individually as well. And then at the end of this video, I will link to the other 2 videos I've done so far during my little obsession here. And yeah, like I said, these shakers the leaves don't really shake, but the confetti does. But they're beautiful. Like all the detail and the foil it just satisfies my little magpie heart. So as always, thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping and commenting. Subscribe if you haven't. I'd very much appreciate it. And then just be sure to check out the description box below the video if you want to see the supplies used, any other info, etc. And I will see you all very soon in the next video. Bye.